Hello, I'm Jody Wolf, and you're watching Expoz today, December 8, 2013, and it's 2:43 a.m., Birmingham, Alabama. Topic: 72 killed resisting gun confiscation in Boston. Hear this. In Boston, the National Guard unit seeking to confiscate a cache of recently banned assault weapons were ambushed by elements of a paramilitary extremist faction. Military and law enforcement and sources estimated that 72 people and were killed and more than 200 injured before the government forces were compelled to withdraw. Speaking after the clash, Massachusetts Governor Thomas Gage declared that the extremist faction was made up of local citizens, has linked to the radical right-wing tax protest movement. Gage blamed the extremists for recent incidents of vandalism directed against the IRS. The governor, who described the group's organizers as criminals, issued an executive order authorizing the summary arrest of any individual who had interfered with the government's efforts to secure law and order. The military raid on the extremist arsenal followed widespread refusal by the local citizenry to turn over recently outlawed assault weapons. Gage issued a ban on military-style assault weapons and ammunition earlier in the week. The decision followed a meeting in the early fifth month between the government, this month, between the government and military leaders, at which the governor authorized forcible confiscation of illegal arms. One government official, speaking of conditions of anonymity, pointed out that none of these people would have been killed had the extremists obeyed the law and turned over their weapons voluntarily. Government troops initially succeeded in confiscating a large supply of outlawed weapons and ammunition. However, troops attempting to seize arms and ammunition in Lexington met with resistance from heavily armed extremists who had been tipped off regarding the government's plans. During a tense standoff in the Lexington Town Park, National Guard Colonel Francis Smith, commander of the government operation, ordered the Army group to surrender and return to their homes. The impasse was broken by a single shot, which was reportedly fired by one of the right-wing extremists. 8 civilians were killed in the ensuing exchange. Ironically, the local citizenry blamed the government forces rather than the extremists for the civilian deaths. I'm sorry about this. Before order could be restored, armed citizens from surrounding areas had descended upon the guard units. Colonel Smith, finding his forces overmatched by the armed mobs, ordered a retreat. Governor Gage has called upon citizens to support the State National Joint Task Force in an effort to restore law and order. The governor also demanded the surrender of those responsible for planning and leading the attack against the government troops. Now hear this. Samuel Adams, Paul Revere, and John Hancock, who have been identified as ringleaders of the extremist faction, remain at large. And this, fellow Americans, is how the American Revolution began in April 20th, 1775. On July the 4th, 1776, these same extremists signed the Declaration of Independence, pledging to each other and their countrymen their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor. Many of them lost everything, including their families and their lives over the course the next few years. And what is the message here? Let us not forget. This is Jody Wolf, Expoz.